Our nested layout is looking pretty good at this time. The next thing we must do is we've got to come back and address this arrowhead. What we want to do on this cell phone stand is to make the arrowhead a key visual feature of our actual design and the product that we're making. So what we have to do is come back and put some features and some artwork on this particular arrowhead using the plasma cutter. So what do? Well, let's go back and look at the original artwork that we copied off of the internet. Let's go look at the actual arrowhead itself, as you can see here. Now, on this arrowhead that we copied off, first thing is it's trademarked, so we can't use this exact design, so we've got to come up with our own variation of this design. So as you notice, we've got these scallops here that are these cutout ellipses here that you see, and you have this arc that comes over for the arrow that mounts onto the shaft, and you got this what looks like kind of an indication of a rope design that holds it onto the arrow shaft. We want to come up with some kind of features on our actual steel part that kind of exemplifies this, but is not exactly the same. So let's go back to our Illustrator file. So here in our Illustrator file, we have just the outline of the part. I went ahead and opened up the arrowhead itself, where we're going to come back here and modify this design as you see here. And we're going to add those features that look like the one image we got off of the internet. But it's different. So in working ahead of this tutorial, what I went ahead and did was I went ahead and I'll show you an example of a file that I created that has those features, those cutouts. Here's the file now. This is the file I went out and I created and I tested. And as you can tell, I've got single lines that indicate these cuts that you see right here and what would be the thing that held the arrow onto the shaft. And as you can see here, these two arcs, those arcs represent the shaft part here. Now, you're probably saying, well, Mr. Platt, why aren't these closer together? Well, it's a good reason. If you notice these arcs here, and you notice the spacing out here, I'm accounting for the capabilities of the CNC plasma cutter. Remember, every device that cuts leaves what's known as a kerf. Kerf, K-E-R-F, is the width of the cutting device that goes through the material. So if I look at these lines here, all I'm going to do is have the CNC plasma cutter come up and touch right here and then run this arc that way. And it's going to leave a wide cut or a width of a cut known as the kerf there. And that kerf is usually a little over a 1/16 of an inch, sometimes around probably 0.0875 of an inch. So I accounted for that in this design, and I went back to the plasma cutter and I made some cuts. But for our purposes now, we need to go back over to this original design here, and we need to make that artwork that you see here in this inner part there. Okay, so we'll go back to your original file here, and we'll start creating those features. So the first thing I want to do is zoom up to this area right here using my Alt key and my thumb wheel on my mouse, and I can zoom up and I can get close to the area I want to work. So I'll come over here and grab the line segment tool, and I'll just come out here, and about this spot here I'll make a click, hold my shift key down, make a click and hold my shift key down and drag that across there. I'll do that again. So I'll come over here again, and I'll click, hold my mouse button down and my shift button, and I'll drag out this way. Now I've created these two line segments. Notice I'm leaving pretty much of a gap right here between the end of the line and the outside of the actual arrowhead. I may want to adjust that using my direct selection tool here. As you see, I'll click out here in outer space, then I'll click on this point. Using my arrow key, I'll nudge it back a little bit. I'll come over here and do the same as the one above, and I'll nudge it back a little bit there, maybe just a little too far. And now I'll come back and use my selection tool, click up here and then click on this one and click on the one below it, and I'll just kind of nudge it to the right, just kind of just where it's in the center, as you can see here. Okay, so I got those two in. That looks pretty good. Now what I'll do is I'll come up and grab my pen tool, which I've already got torn off as my palette. Let me show you how to do that again. When I want to use a tool, I can hover over it and notice a little arrow at the bottom right corner. If I hold my mouse down, it pulls up all of these, and I pull all the way to the right. You'll see this little area here on the tool palette, and I can release it and it tears it off. So I can come out here and tear off, which I'll probably need this one as well. Hold it down, come out here to the far right and tear that off as well. And I will come over here, and as you can see, they snap like a magnet. So now I have both of those. So I can select this one first and then this one second. And now as I release off the second one, you can see that I've got an open arrowhead, which signifies my anchor point tool. Now if I hold my control key down, as you can see, I can toggle back and forth between those two. So that allows me to have two commands prompted where I can use immediately as I need to. Well, let's go ahead and draw the arcs that represents the end of the shaft. So again, I'll come back here to my pen tool, and I'll come above, probably about 1/8 of an inch, and I'll come up here and I'll put an arc in. Well, now I'll just come over here and select, not releasing, but select the direct selection tool, and then I'll go back to the convert anchor tool. So now I've got those two. So now I'll come out here and click in space and come back and re-click that, and then I'll take this. Once I've got that second one, then I'll start moving this control points around. So now I've got me a nice arc. So I'll go ahead and grab my selection tool here, and I'll move my mouse over it and see how it finds it. It'll show that little black box below it. Well, I'm going to click it, and I'm going to hold my Alt key down. Now I've got two arrows. I'll hold my Alt key down and click with my left mouse button and drag. And so now I have two line segments. That's pretty cool. Now we're going to come over here to the reflect tool, which is also done by the O command. Let's see what happens when we hit our O. Yep, sure enough, we're in the reflect tool. So we got a center point here. I can hold my shift key down now, then I can rotate this guy around and reflect it. There it is. That looks pretty good. So we'll go ahead and we'll go back to our selection tool, and we'll kind of position these around on our actual arrowhead for design. So I'll kind of move those around a little bit. Now, seeing how they're kind of off, I'm going to go ahead and hold my shift key down and select both of them. And then what I'll do is come up to Window, and I'll come down here to where it says Align, and I'll align those to the top, as you can see there. Looks pretty good. And now what I'll do is go back to my selection tool, put a polygon over the two of them, and I can drag my mouse a little bit to the right, and back to a little bit to the left to kind of get it positioned where I want it. Okay, we'll go with that for now. Click out here in space, we'll do a Control-0 to zoom to the extents of the file, and we'll kind of look at what we've got going. Okay, I'm happy with this right now. I'm going to go back to my pen tool, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to place a point here, point here, point here, point here, and probably a point about right there. Then I'll hit Escape, and I'll go back to direct selection and convert anchor point. Now what I'll do is I'll come down here and hold my toggle with the to the other command with my control key. I'll grab this and kind of play around with that a little bit. I'm kind of going to position these little features here a little different, and maybe pull that one in just a little bit. Now what I'll do is I'll grab my convert anchor point tool and kind of adjust that so I get an arc. Click up here, do the same thing on the two segments above. I'll click and I'll drag. So I'm just going to kind of rotate them around a little bit so you can see what you got. Alright, that looks decent. Come back over here and I'll convert this one, put that around, and I've got that feature there. That looks alright. That's a little exaggerated there, so I'll take my arrow keys and select that point and just kind of walk it in a little bit. And I'll control, click out in space, grab this point here, and I may move it down and kind of over, kind of drag it into place. Okay, that looks pretty good. We'll go with that for now. Now I'll come back to my pen tool again, and I'll start putting in the rest of the features. And we'll come back and look at this in a moment.